Welcome! It's a great day to be a miner. Today we have an exciting new piece of hardware to set up, the PowerColor RX 6700 XT Hellhound. We're going to unbox it, we're going to set it up, we're going to test it, we're going to overclock it, and we're going to check the profitability. So, without further ado, let's spin that intro. Welcome! We got a brand new graphics card to test. We got an AMD 6700 XT. Before we tear into all the details on this graphics card, give you all the specs, set it up, do all the testing, I want to personally say thank you to the GrtBaldini for advising me to pick this up. I would not have purchased this without you. Thank you, GrtBaldini. Now, let's dive into this. This is the AMD PowerColor Hellhound 6700 XT graphics card from AMD. This thing features 2560 stream processors. It has 12 gigabytes of DDR6 and a boost clock of a massive 2581 megahertz. That is a huge number. This thing is a beautiful card. It has a really nice backplate. It has 3 beautiful RGB fans, and I can't wait to set this up. And most importantly, this thing should hash around 47 mega hash. And I know you're gonna wonder how much I paid for this. I actually paid MSRP on this, and it ran just over $900 US through Amazon. These are probably the easiest of the newest generation cards to get because of the lower hash per dollar that you're getting out of these. Comparatively, you could get a 3060 at MSRP at $400 that does 48 to 50 mega hash, when this one only does 47 mega hash at over $900. So that's why it's the easiest to get the 6700 XT. But without further ado, let's go ahead and unbox this thing and tear into it, get it on a rig, and then we're gonna test it out. We're gonna get all the nerdy numbers and we're gonna share it all with you. Let's get into it. It's about that time. RGB knife. Engage. Now that is interesting. Tape is already cut. This is a brand new graphics card and I have not opened this thing yet. This came through Amazon directly. It wasn't a third-party seller. This side is sealed. This side is not. That's worrisome. Man, I hope there's a graphics card in here and not some kind of a brick or some heavy weight that just... Because people have been doing that. You need to be very careful with your Amazon purchases. Let's open this thing up. Corner is a little bit torn. Somebody's already been in this card. Ugh. Please be a graphics card. Please be a graphics card. Please be a graphics card. Can't look. You guys look for me. Please tell me there's a graphics card in there. Please tell me there's a graphics card in there. That's loose. There's a graphics card in there. If this was laying loose in there, that's definitely not packaged how it should. Random sticker torn off right here. This thing's already been in some end user's hands, but at least the graphics card is in there. Fingers crossed. Let's just hope this thing's gonna work. All right, the graphics card was in there. Okay, so let's open this thing up and see what it looks like. Let's set the box right here for now. Get back in there, box. All right. This is the Hellhound from PowerColor. This thing is beautiful. It's very heavy. Look, the static bag is torn where somebody has opened it. Never a good sign. Well, the card itself does not look to be all scratched up, at least not the faceplate. Man, that is a pretty card. Look at those beautiful clear fans that will illuminate with the LEDs underneath. And then it has chrome accents. Let's hold it up there. And obviously the see-through design for the blow-through for the cooling. Now let's take a look at the back. Backplate looks good, no scratches on it. Beautiful logo on there. There's our pass-through design so that the PCB ends right here, and then the fan will blow through the cooler to try to get extra cooling throughout the entire thing. It is a 2-slot. There are no safety caps. Now, whether or not this should come with it or shouldn't, some do, some don't, or whether or not the first owner took those out. And same with the PCIe slots. Some graphics cards come with protection, some do not, so I'm not 100% sure on this specific model. Man, this thing is pretty beefy though. It's got 2 slots, it's got the, let's see, 3 display ports and 1 HDMI. It runs off of 2 of your 8-pin power connectors. This thing's pretty beefy. Let's get this on the scale and see how much it actually weighs. Before we do that, 2 offset larger fans on the outside, 1 smaller fan on the inside. Some cards will run that inside one backwards and then rotate the other 2 forward to try to offset the heat. I'm not sure if this model does, so I'll have to check into that. But first, let's make sure these fans work right. That is the patented altered component fan spin. That's right, Red Panda. Altered component fan spin. Set this thing down. All right, let's check the weight on this guy. First thing we gotta do is 0 our scale. Come on, scale. Let's pop it on there. Then we'll push our hold button. And let's see what we got. This thing weighs 2 pounds, 14.9 ounces, just under 3 pounds. That is a beefy graphics card. Most of my 3070s are actually lighter than this. Definitely the Founders Edition and definitely my Gigabyte 3070s do not actually weigh as much as this card, so that's interesting. Asus Tough 3070 probably weighs about the same. We'll get some good shots of this thing. Then we're gonna take it down into the garage and we're gonna hook it into our existing rig down there, and we're gonna get some testing on it. We're gonna get some numbers and we're gonna see how profitable this graphics card is, and then we'll dive into the nerdy numbers. In the garage, I have a 3x RX 5700 XT rig, and each of those cards do 55 to 57 mega hashes on Ethereum, which this will only do about 47. I'm hoping that I can get this thing in there and operational without actually having to do a major overhaul, but we're gonna get into that. All right, here we are at our top secret mining location, our lair, our garage. This is the reality of a small time miner. We have rigs in the garage, in the basement. We're trying to dissipate heat, move it throughout the house. We're trying to relocate power so that we're not putting additional strain all into one location. But here is my little mini rig. It has 3 RX 5700s. These things have been Trump type, been hashing away for well over a year. They're running about 55 mega hash a piece. And I have a little router that's actually just using as an extender right now. It's connecting to the main Wi-Fi point in the main part of the house. And then I have a cheap old Dell in this cabinet here, just for display purposes. Let's get this, let's see what we're doing. So there is my guy hashing away. We're making 167 mega hash, 55, 55, and almost 57. This thing, I just fired it back up not too long ago, but this thing is Trump tight. It'll run thousands of shares with no rejected. The power draw is pretty low overall, and this has just been my makeshift setup in the garage to get an extra rig in here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our 6700 XT Hellhound. We're gonna put it right over here. And then we have an XFX Quick 6700 XT. We're gonna put it right here. And this rig will need cleaned up a little. We've got the accessories we're gonna use. And again, this is my really messy garage. Don't judge, it works. So let's go ahead and move this thing down and start setting it up. Before I do that, the first thing I did was I went ahead and backed up the entire hard drive. I had an extra one with, since it is set up so well, just in case this 6700 XT, when I put in the new drivers, in case I bork anything up. So I just did a clone, and to do a clone really quick and efficient, I use AOMEI backupper right here. AOMEI backupper full. I'll run this guy here. I know this is beautiful camera work, right? So the thing I do is a new backup, I go to clone over here. We clone, we do a disk clone, which is just clone one hard disk to another. And then I would select my source, would be the one that's already in the system. And then I would select my destination, would be the new one that I plugged in. And then I would make sure to select SSD, and then I would change the partition to include any additional space if I'm using a different size. And then I use this little handy adapter here. It's just a SATA to a USB 3. This thing is beautiful. It goes really quick, really efficient. And I think that connector was only like 10 bucks. I'll look it up and put a link in the description if you need to pick one of those up. So here, let's go ahead and just set this up. This is on a Gigabyte H110 D3A motherboard. These things just run simple and straight. Been using these for years. So let's pull it down and let's get it fitted with our new equipment. Real quick, we'll just go over this rig. This is an MSI Ventus 5700. It is flashed with an XT BIOS. This is an MSI 5700 Evoke. It is flashed with a MSI Gaming X 5700 XT BIOS. Same with the one on the left. And then they all have been BIOS modded, and the powerplay tables have been tweaked. And I was running these things at around 57 mega hash, and all of them, and I kept getting crashes. And after over time, I just kept adjusting and tweaking until I've got them to where they run beautifully, optimally, and do not crash ever. I could leave this thing running for a month and it not have any problems. That is until I add the 6700 XTs here and completely change the whole formula and the whole setup. But that's what we're gonna do. We've got room. We're gonna actually put on two 6700 XTs on the end here. I'm gonna go ahead and set up the other riser and the cables so that it's all ready to go when the other one arrives. And we are using a nice splitter, an AS6 pin to dual 8 pin. For power, I have a 750 watt server gold power supply, and it has a really old style breakout board with no power switch or anything on it, and then a 650 watt Roswell bronze ATX to go along with it to power the system. It just has a H110 gigabyte board and a Celeron G, probably 4400, just a cheapo. But let's go ahead and get this Hellhound installed. That's a beautiful looking card. It's gonna look like a beast next to those 3 small cards. So let's try this out. I know it works for Panda and it works for these other people. Let's do this. Ready, set. All right, real quick, we are installed. Look at this mammoth right here. Look how big that guy is compared to the MSI and the MSI Evokes right there, the 5700 dual fans, compared to this big guy here. So what I have is just these are from Parallel Miner. These are 6-pin to dual 8-pin splitters. Then I used Parallel Miner 6-pin to 8-pin extra long cables from the server power supply. I'll zip strip it right here onto this hole. These are version 008S risers. That's what I primarily use. I have quite a bit of them and I've been using them for years and they haven't failed me very much. So they are the side mount risers, which some people prefer because they just can be a little cleaner if you actually wire them well and not just have them stuck in there. And then I left a gap for right here will be my XFX Quick 6700 XT. And there we go. The only other thing I'll have to do is when I plug this thing in and just get it running again, I have the new AMD drivers already downloaded, ready to install, and I have a feeling that'll wipe all my overclocks. So I did write down all of my very precise overclocks for these 3 cards because I've had them very tweaked and tuned over the years. And so we're gonna go ahead and move it up, hook it up, and we'll flash right back. Ready, go. All right, we're hooked up, we're powered up. Let's take a look at how pretty it is. See those glowing eyes? Isn't that pretty sick right there? And then you've got the glowing pass through. Take a look at it. Oh, she's pretty. She's real pretty. And then of course the 35700s. And then of course when I booted it in, I go to device manager and it is not showing because I'm on an old AMD driver, and that old AMD driver is not going to recognize a brand new card. As you can see there, these all register as 5700 XTs. They are all 5700s that have been flashed to 5700 XT. If you haven't done that and you have a 5700, you are robbing yourself of a lot of hash rate and efficiency. So we're gonna jump over into our remote session and set this up where you can get a nice screen view instead of a camera on a screen. So let's go ahead and pop over. Time to snap. All right, so we're over into our remote session from the main desktop so we get a better view. It's showing that we have just a Microsoft basic adapter because it's not reading the 6700 XT. So what I did is I told you I backed up my hard drive, so I've got that all set aside, and now I have a whole different now I'm going to jump over into AMD, and I searched the 6700 XT drivers. I downloaded the Windows 10 64-bit. I downloaded the 21.5.2 Adrenaline drivers, and that's what we're going to install. And I'm hoping it doesn't jack up my 35700 cards, and then hopefully we get this one running, and then if it does work, we'll go ahead and overclock it, and then when the XFX quick comes in, we'll slap it in there and probably won't have much problem with getting it in as well. And then we'll use Phoenix Miner to test this thing out, and Afterburner to do our overclocks. So let's go ahead and do an install and see how that goes. It's gonna need my downloads. There's my drivers. Yes, I want to install. Probably fast wireless. I don't even know what I was doing, so let go fast wireless control. Okay, that's really. Partially about 370 hash, 120 watts. And $900 not battery value. Take it. We'll go to that. Waiting line. And my password never really loud. It'll be my low. Alright, let's leave the factory reset, and then we're going to keep our user settings. Hopefully that doesn't jack up on my overclocks, but it probably will. So we're going to do full install, and we'll do it in our normal location. Let's go ahead and do the install. Alright, it's installed. It wants me to restart. I'm going to uncheck allow AMD to collect usage information, kick rocks. I don't need that. So let's go ahead and restart. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the 6700 XT, and we're going to fire it up on Phoenix. What I did was I went in and created a new bat file, and I selected just GPU-GPU2 because it uses that 5700 XT is number 1 right here, then the 6700 is number 2, number 3, number 4. Here we go. 6700 XT, it looks good. Let's pull up our GPU Z so we can see what the sensors are reading on it. Alright, first things first, I jumped in, I got it mining, I got about 43.9 mega hash on 176 watts stock. So then I jumped into Afterburner, and I couldn't move any slider at all on this card. You can see how it says 2000 for memory. It said 0. So what I did was to unlock at least the memory tuning, I right clicked, went into the AMD settings, I jumped over to my GPU 4, which is the 6700, and I changed it from preset to manual, and that unlocked at least the memory. I haven't enabled the rest of the tuning yet, so I'm hoping that enables all of it once I click all these on. we're going to want to turn on our GPU tuning. And do we want advanced control, or is that just from in here? We'll turn it on too. We'll click on the tuning, the advanced control, and the VRAM tuning and power tuning enabled, and VRAM, let's do that. So we'll enable everything under the AMD performance tab for this GPU. Then we're going to launch Afterburner and see if it opens everything up for us. And here comes Afterburner. So that's at 2000. Let's see if I can move my core. So I can't move core at all. Can't move core voltage. The only thing it's allowing me to move in Afterburner now is my memory clock. And it starts at 2000, and it'll only let me bump up to 2150, so that's pretty interesting too. Let's just run it right like that and see what it does, because that's gonna be interesting. And let's spool it up and see what it gets at just by cranking the memory an extra 150. Ooh, nice, 47. It jumped clear up there. I bet my power is going to be terrible, however, because I wasn't able to pull it down. So it should be doing 100% power. 180 watts. Alright, well, apparently my 6700 XT does not play well with Afterburner, at least not currently, so I'm using the tuning within AMD's software and underneath the Adrenaline Performance tab. So far what I've done is I changed it to manual. I went down and changed my max frequency, dropped it down to 1050. My voltage is still at 1200. I changed the memory timing right here to fast timing, and I moved my max frequency on my memory all the way up to 2150. Let's apply that, and then we are going to fire it up again and see what it does. That power is much better. 123 watts, but only at 45.8 mega hash, so we've dropped from 47.25 to 45.8. Alright, I started playing around with this and I cannot do anything in Afterburner. You have to do it through the Radeon settings. So let's go into Radeon settings, AMD Radeon software. I'm doing it from the right click menu. You can do it from the taskbar down here. You jump in, you gotta switch to your GPU, and then you switch it into manual mode. So this is GPU 4. It dropped it back to preset. This is what it starts out at. So let's go ahead and jam it into manual mode. And then we want to turn on our GPU tuning. Let's turn on our advanced control. Then let's turn on the VRAM timing. And for now, just to start off with, let's only, this should be advanced control. And then let's go ahead and turn our megahertz out for our RAM all the way max, 2150. And then also, that should be good. Let's just start with that and see what we actually get on those clocks. Up at the top right corner, hit apply changes. And now let's go fire this up and see what it does. It'll be this one. So boom, just like that, we jump it right up into the 47 mega hash range. But look at that power draw, 180 watts, yikes. And now let's work on getting this power down, because that's out of control. And here's something real quick before we move on that I watched in a few other videos where they were saying do not rely on AMD's wattage reporting, that it'll be quite far off from what your miner will actually show and what you would actually get from the wall. But in this instance, I'm showing 181 watts at the miner and 181 watts in the software. I'm betting that AMD has that issue corrected, and now it's actually reporting correct power within the Radeon software. We'll have to test that with a meter at the wall and get real numbers later, but I think, fingers crossed, AMD has this portion corrected. Alright, now let's start bringing down the power. So let's jump back into the Radeon software. We're going to take our max frequency and let's bring it down at the 1200 level. And then let's bring our voltage as far down as we can and see if it'll actually run stable. 887 is pretty low, so it's not bad if that'll actually run that way. I mean, I know that some of my previous gen Radeon cards, you can get down around the 700 range and really get them efficient. But let's try this right here, apply the changes, and see how it'll actually function. Ooh, that power's pretty good. 124 watts. That's pretty good. What's it gonna hold? It's gonna hold 46.6. Okay, so our next step will be to reduce our power. We'll do this with MorePowerTools, hosted out of Igors lab, actually the same way that I have been doing for a long time on the 5700 and 5700 XTs. So I'll put a link down in the description. Just hop over onto this site, scroll all the way down to the links for these tools. If it pops up in German, make sure to select English. This is based out of Germany. So right here, the MorePowerTools MPT, and you're going to want to download. I've already downloaded the new copy. There it is. Go ahead and run it and install it. And then it will pop up like this guy here. Now, before you do anything, you have to have a BIOS, a copy of your original BIOS to modify. So you'll do that with GPU-Z. And again, I'll include that in the description. So you hop over into GPU-Z, make sure that you have the 6700 XT card selected in the drop-down. And then there's a little button right below the AMD Radeon graphics right here. Save BIOS. That's what we want to do, save to file. Make sure to name it something memorable. 6700 XT, then the name of the card or the brand of the card, and stock.rom is what I usually do. So I use 6700 XT Hellhound stock.rom. So we'll save the original. Okay, now we're ready to start editing our power limits. So we've already got our stock BIOS saved. Now let's go into MorePowerTools, and then we're going to select our card from the drop down up top. Not the 57, we want the 67. Now let's load our stock BIOS with all the stock values. Leave all these checkboxes here. This just enables the ability to edit these things in the other tabs. So what we're concerned about first and foremost is power and voltage. Now, earlier we were getting a lower limit when we cranked the slider all the way down. For the core millivolt, we could only get down to 887. That's right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that lower limit, and we're just going to put it clear down to 600. I know realistically 725 is probably going to be our target, but let's just set it there so that if we want to crash out the card and turn it all the way down, we can. And then the next thing you're going to do is write SPPT, soft power play table. There's a lot more things you can do in here. With my 5700s, I played with all of these. I made so many different BIOSes. I edited things like your fan curve, your actual fans, when they kick on. I turn off, let's go ahead and turn off 0 RPM, because I don't ever want my fans to stop spinning. I want them to slow down, but I don't ever want them to stop completely, because this is a mining rig. So we'll cut that off. And then for now, let's just leave everything else as is. And we're going to write the soft power play table. Successfully added. So it now wrote that to the BIOS and changed that lower limit. And now to get it to take effect, we're going to do a reboot and jump back into our Radeon software overclocking and see if that helped us. Alright, following a reboot, it reset my settings within Radeon software. So what I did was I jumped back in here, I set my max frequency to 1400, I dropped my core voltage to only 801, I went back to the memory timing. I selected fast timing, and I moved my max frequency for the memory all the way up to 2150. And we're going to fire it up and see how it runs and see what the actual numbers are here. Okay, I've been at this for a few hours now. I've tried so many different tweaks and tunes, and here is where I've settled in. I'm getting exactly just over 47 megahash at 116 watts. I could probably bring it down a little bit. Alright, let's put a bow on this thing. I finally got this rig up and running, and pretty optimally running. It was such a pain to get the 6700 XT to run in Windows with the 5700s that are flashed to 5700 XT. And the reason is AMD is so finicky anyway. Those three 5700s are BIOS modded. They have the PowerPlay tables set up and changed. And what happened was, when I would go to overclock the 6700 XT, I couldn't overclock in Afterburner. I tried 3 or 4 different Afterburners and I could not get it to pull in. Nothing would unlock. So like core voltage showing locked, core clock locked, memory, even when I would adjust it, would revert back. So then I would have to overclock in the Radeon software, but then when I would do that, it would try to fight the 5700s and mess up their clocks, even though I had them turned off in the Radeon software. So the moral of the story is Windows does not like to use 2 overclocking softwares, and that was the problem. So once I finally got them to work in conjunction, after 3 hours of initial setup and 2 hours the next day, I finally got it all optimally running. It is running pretty well. It's showing 210 megahash total. The three 5700s are going 54, 54, and almost 56 respectively. Those are doing at like 100 watts, 100 watts, and 100, and there it is, 101 watts, 102 watts, and 126 watts. And the 6700 XT, I have it running 46.6 megahash on 112 watts. So everything is super efficient. We're running really good. It's showing no invalid shares at all at the miner level. Let's jump over to the pool real quick, take a look at it, and see what it looks like at the pool level. So here is the pool level. I've got it running. It's showing reported at 210. Let's refresh it real quick. Showing it reported. That's the entire set. And here it is. It's showing reported 210 megahash, which is correct. But then my average is only 187. Current's only 186. Getting a lot of stale, 3.8%. That is a large percentage, so I'm gonna have to circle the wagons, try to get that percentage down to around 1 to 2% at max. That's normal optimal levels. And then the last thing is, I'm going to add one more 6700 XT XFX quick. Should come in the next week, I hope, and then that rig will be done. As Mad Electron Rick pointed out, put this thing on Hive, stop playing around in Windows, get it hashing, set it and forget it. That's what I'm going to do, because mixing a rig with the older gen AMD and the newer gen AMD has not been very productive. It is working, but man, 5 hours of setup to get an optimal setup, which still is showing 3.8% stale, is less than ideal. So anyway, thanks for coming along with me on this crazy journey. Let's hop out into the outro.
Well, there you have it. We took a whole lot of tweaking, a whole lot of tuning, but we finally got that card up and running efficiently. We got it running at about 47 megahash on 110 watts on Ethereum using Windows. This is a beautiful card, but it has a hefty price tag to match. If you're able to get one of the 6700 XTs at sub $800 price range, I highly advise pick one up. That is a great ROI time. This specific model at 900 plus, however, will take a bit longer. If you're new to mining, if you just need some help, make sure to join the Misfit Mining Discord or the Hashrate Discord. There's always plenty of seasoned veterans out there willing to help you out and get you up and mining. If you like this video, you know what to do. Smash that like button and subscribe for future content. Thanks for coming along and enjoy the ride. Pew!